Good morning, old guy jamming here. Today we are going to look inside of that, the DSL1. It was in there, 4 screws on the bottom and a few extra screws, and the screen comes right off the back. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, super easy. 4 and then 4 more little ones. And this thing pops right out, unlike Mesa heads that are just, my gosh, you need a degree in engineering just to get the things out. There's no tolerance at all. Well, their tolerances are really tight, that is. Anyway, kick-ass little amp, super pleased with it, plenty loud to have fun with at home, and sounds great. So we're going to get into it. Got a selection of tubes here as well because as is the case with many Marshalls, there is just way too much gain on tap on the ultra gain channel. You get the gain up to, I'll say there, and it's just plenty. And back up in here is not even usable because it just begins to get flarpy and ugly and muddy. So we're going to try to tame that. However, what I want to do anyway, is preserve the crunch we get on this classic gain side. So we're going to try, because it's really nice. It's a little bit loose, needs a pedal to tighten it up. But the crunch channel on this is very pleasing. It's just that over here, it goes from quite a bit of gain to a lot of gain to too much really quick, and it'd be nice to have a little less gain on that side. But I do want to preserve the crunch on this. So usually this is socket 1. You know that because it's closest to the input. So that's V1, this is V2. They're both 12AX7s and or ECC83s in this case. This is our power tube. It's a 12AU, which has significantly lower gain than these. Remember, it goes XTY as in ecstasy. 12AX7 is 100% gain. 12AT7 is about 90 to 80% gain. It's not very much different. You can hardly tell. You get down to XTY, 12AY7 is a good 70% drop off, which is really nice. I like that kind of a tube swap. And then you get down to the 12AU, which is about 40% of 100% gain. So it's not good for changing gain stages. It's too much of a loss. Doesn't sound good. The reason they use a 12AU as a power tube is because it actually has a higher overall dissipation. The wattage on a 12AU is higher than these others. And because it is a lower gain, the output signal from the power amp is very clean. We do all our tone shaping and gain structure here. This is where we develop the tone and the gain. This we want to be a fairly clean output stage for our effects loop and other things like that. So 12AU back there, but we're going to play with these. Try it here first, and then we'll see what happens with this channel because I really want to preserve this. And then we'll try it over here too and see what happens. But this is usually where you want to start. While we're here, though, we are going to take a look inside of this thing because, let me get the sun out of here if I can. I might have to. There we are. This is really nicely put together in here. I'm very pleased with it. This is something I think you could fix if it were to break down. The red and blue wires are the power inputs from our power transformer. It comes in from over here, and they are then run through some large diode bridge rectification right there. There's another little one, bridge rectifier right there. That creates our DC. Filter caps, large resistors to get that AC ripple down to a nice fine DC. And we have 2 internal fuses. Be aware of that. If your things you blow up, I don't even know if it has a mains fuse in the plug. There's a mains fuse in the plug. But that is not often the one that blows. It's usually an internal one. The ignitors have up to 7 internal fuses. But this one has 2, slow blow and a quick blow right there. So be aware of that. Something to check if your unit goes down. But the overall board is large components, discrete components, not a lot of integrated circuits, a couple of transistors, just the PNP, NPN type, and those are easy to test and easy to replace. Most of this stuff you can readily get from an online retailer. Larger transistors right there, but everything up here is nice and large, and should show you too obvious signs of if something burns up. If a resistor burns up, you'll see it. If a cap goes, you'll smell it, and the top will be split. Here's our socket 1 tube. The solder joints in here are really nice. Everything is really glossy and there's sufficient solder on all the connections. I don't see any suspect solder joints or cold joints. That's our second valve, and then that's our output power valve right there. This board back here is all your connections to the back. We have the effects loop, we have the output to the speaker, and this is our little attenuation array right here. Here's our attenuation button, and these are low ohmage, high wattage resistors, and I think that's how we're getting it from 1 watt to half a watt. We're just putting a resistive load on it. And this whole board then connects also, and these are output to the output transformer and then to the speaker outs. This comes from the output transformer, blah, 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 to your output speaker. But these connectors here all come over to here. This is our effects loop. And then this board, I believe, is all our reverb, our input auxiliary in, MP3 stuff, everything we have emulated out is also, I think, on that card right there. So all these connections back here, foot switch connection, all that stuff runs through this board, which is loaded with little tiny surface mount integrated circuits, both sides. It's a double-sided board. However, it is connected to the main amp board with that cool little connector. So if any of this stuff on the back went out, you could probably pick up this board from Marshall and just plug a new board back in, which is nice because you're not trying to troubleshoot that stuff on your main power board. Alright, the pots aren't super cool. They're not large diameter metal pots that you can wash out, but they seem, a lot of people are using these little plastic pots, and there's no noise or scratchiness in them, so I'm okay with that. Alright, so we'll flip this thing over, we'll get it energized, and we'll try some tubes and see what we hear on these power stages. Alright, so this is stock. Killer. Alright, power that down with a nice orbital motion. Put that one out, and I think we'll start with the 2 is the lowest value. They're 8-pin. There's a space, there's a spot where the pin is missing, so it's really hard not to put this thing in right. And orbital again as you put it in. You see, that's already as low as the classic gain channel. But it really reduced the gain over there nicely. Lost a bit of that crunch on that side. So turn it off. Let's see, just for giggles, what happens if we put this one over here and this one over here. Because my thinking is that perhaps most of our classic gain is being developed here, with this one, the second tube, maybe being responsible for more of what's happening on the ultra gain side. Sometimes they use both halves of a tube for gain, but sometimes they'll use side A here and then side A or side B here for the second gain stage. But sometimes they'll use A as the first gain stage and then B as the second. That sounds good. Sounds good too. Okay, so now we will turn this off. I'm just trying to figure out where stuff's happening the most. And here is my dog's trying to get in, scratching the heck out of my door. So now we're back to both sockets being full of ECC 83. Yeah, it's very compressed, not as open, missing some of that mid. Wow. I know this is, the audio on this is probably horrible because it's over my iPad. May have to watch this back to see. Should run it like a regular AB video type. It's still pretty nice. Maybe I'm not losing anything. And there also is available, I don't know if it would work in this situation, but we also have available to us tubes that have a reduced gain on the A side and all the gain on the B side of the tube. And that could also be something I'm looking for. They don't have applications in all amps, of course, because not all amp designers design things like that. But in some situations, it might be what we're looking for. And you could call the tube store or the tube doctor, someone like that, to see if your amp is and this is the ECC 81, so it's just a slight gain drop. Like I said, this classic gain channel, you do want to have a pedal on it. It does need something once you get the gain up to tighten it up, but it is pretty good as a nice crunch channel. I like it. All right, tell me what you think in the comments.